getting myself into something I wasn't prepared for. I didn't really stop to question how labor-intensive the coming weeks would be. I just started pulling off the trim to see where it would take me. It's my first time doing any of this. I like a Buick because they're a good blend of being modest and cheap while still being tasteful. Somehow, this could be a res rocket, and at the same time, it could belong to the world's cheapest CEO. It is something of a mothership connection chariot. But that's not an educated take. I'm just a 20-something-year-old. Somebody sold it to me for around $1,500 US. By a stroke of incredible good luck, the odometer is only at 100,000 miles. But it is in wrong side of the Detroit River gray. And that vinyl top could be worse, but it's ready to be rejuvenated. I don't know if there's a better way to remove these rubber strips, because they just curled up on me and gave way to an avalanche of dust. I tried to divide and conquer the vinyl by going after it in sections. It took more elbow grease than anticipated, but nothing I couldn't handle. Once I got through it all, it looked like a sheep. And I wasn't too keen on driving in this sheep mobile. I didn't realize at the time, but what I was looking at was not good, and might have been avoided if I used another method to pull it off. Or it was just a 7-2 hand with the type of glue, the age of the glue, or the climate it was exposed to. I discovered the glue remover solution I bought wasn't much help, because it couldn't penetrate the layer of fabric that was deeply embedded in the glue. This fabric isn't on all types of vinyl tops, but it is on this one, and the one I'm going to be installing. Something like acetone might have burned right through, but I didn't want to buy anything that turned out to be ineffective.
Listen up. At this very moment, there is an asteroid headed towards the Earth, representing imminent doom for millions. The only way you can save yourself is by liking and writing a comment in the comment section to enlist my divine powers.
Quick splash and dash before sand. First I went after the small patches of rust with 60 grit sandpaper. Then I went and scuffed everything, vertically and horizontally, with 400 grit sandpaper. In case it wasn't clear at this point, we're not going for perfection here. This is my first time doing this. Nobody's going to be surveying this car for imperfections. If you're looking for a tutorial, I'm glad you chose this one, but you want to go listen to experienced perspectives as well. Now it's time to tape off all the trim and whatnot. Probably could have used some fancy white man tool to pull those off, but I didn't feel like it. This is just 2 thin and sketchy coats of primer, because the primer's gray and the car is already gray. You might be wondering if I don't know better than to not be wearing a mask for this. The reason is that this is my car. If I was employed in some shop doing this, it would be a different story. But since this is mine, the dust will be good to my whistling pipes. Scuffed everything vertically and horizontally again with 1000 grit. I know that everyone says the use of rattle cans is an egregious crime against humanity. So why would I do such a thing? Well, I didn't want to buy an air compressor. No residence of mine has been permanent for a long time. And renting an air compressor is just too much messing around. but in case you haven't heard yet, they all say it is inherently better by leaps and bounds to use one of those with a paint gun. I don't know why, but for some reason I thought 8 cans would be enough, and if there's extra I'll just drink the rest of it. At that point, every store in town was cleaned out of this color, so I had to go on an excursion to go get more. I did 1 coat of clear coat, followed by a 2nd coat of clear coat. And while it was drying, I painted these gray trim pieces black for the black final top. Then I had extra clear coat, which was known to be a lousy product, so I did a 3rd coat. I used a total of 2 tall primer cans, 15 dark teal cans, and 7 cans of clear coat. I should have kept my mask on to remove the tape, because I was seeing pink elephants. For teal, it looks closer to green than I expected, with not a whole lot of blue in there, but I do like the color. Then I threw some black paint on the front bumper, which had gotten yellow marks on it somehow. At this time, I had to take a good long look at my blurred reflection in the paint to renounce the shortcuts I've been taking and redeem myself by polishing this thing. I was apprehensive because with the driveway being in a gravel alley that gets relatively significant traffic, it was a dirt magnet, and there was bound to be some that had worked its way into the paint. And wet sanding is a technique of scuffing the paint, then bringing it back with buffing. It's some kind of sacrilegious alchemy. I went around the car doing a few passes on everything. I wanted to keep going until I ran out of the buffing compound, but my cheap orbital gadget died. I wasn't gonna bother trying to claim the warranty because when I opened it, there was a big sticker that said use a high gauge extension cord, and I guess I did ignore that and use the wrong cord. I lost the orbital fair and square, so I had to polish by hand, Mennonite style. It does look better, but I can't see my reflection too good. Or anybody else's, for that matter. Now I was forced to come to terms with the fact that the glue wasn't going to scrape itself off the roof. I did contemplate just throwing the new vinyl on top of that. I've seen some cock and bull story on the internet that any protrusions will show right through. I think that's only applicable to thinner types of vinyl, but there's also the matter of adhesion. It might not last as long glued to the old glue. So I invested some 43 painstaking hours into this fool's errand. That's right, 43 hours, single-handed. I spent more than a standard work week peeling it. 1/16 of an inch at a time. It was a real pain in the you-know-what, though it could be therapeutic at times. After all the fabric was gone, I used what was left of my solution. And would you believe it, when it ran out and I substituted glass cleaner, that worked a whole lot better. There were a few patches of glue that I couldn't persuade to come off, so I suppose they'll just be entombed in there. Now look at how that glistens and shines. It's reflecting a mirror image. Next, I scuffed the roof with 400 grit sandpaper so that it wouldn't outshine and disgrace the painting ability that I demonstrated. Also, so it's more adhesive with the glue. This guy showed up to commend me for using his color scheme on my car. Yeah, I got a wild sunburn. Well, I dropped around $400 US on the paint. I don't want to say how much I paid for the rag though. Not everybody is crazy about vinyl tops. It occurred to me that some could see it as akin to an insecure person wearing a shirt at a swimming pool, but I chose to see it as a vest for the car. Locating the center on the backside. They sent me a lot of excess, so I just eyeballed a closer size. Then I found the center at the front. It wasn't until after opening the contact cement it occurred to me I didn't have a stirring stick, so I went and grabbed a tree branch, and that worked just fine. Throw it over and run like hell to get it straightened out. In terms of roof coverage, this is about as simple as vinyl tops get. Some of them go under the back windshield too. Some of them have 2 seams. My cell phone died, but the other side was the same process. At long last, it's time to put the trim back on, 1 month after it was all removed. I probably got too rough with these parts when taking them off. They were attached with clips that mostly broke, so now they're mostly just held on with glue. On the other side, I cut the vinyl short and had to patch it up, which is a bit of a shame. I also had to do a patch above the passenger door. This also looks bad, and I'm not proud of it. I thought about throwing the twisted rubber from under the windshield trim in the trash, but I guess I had this crazy idea that screwing around with glue could restore it somewhat, and I was surprised that it eventually kind of worked. But I might have to go back and add more glue to it still. Seeing as these trim pieces are all warped, I've thought about replacing them with some of the excess vinyl to make sideburns for the windshield, and with a strip of aluminum on the other sides. Now here's the finished product. In this footage, it looks like you're seeing creases on the roof, but that's mostly just the sun shining on the texture of it.
You know, if this beauty was a woman, I'd have to break my 20 and under rule.
Man, I'll just stick to driving, all right?
It's got an ashtray. You don't see much of those anymore. I'm way out of my element talking about cars. I just haven't been alive long enough on this earth. I was never really extremely into cars. although I'm more well versed nowadays. What I can do is just talk about the broader design aspect in today's world. Before this, I had a 2005 Buick LaCrosse. That one was even cheaper. It came with one of those Sikh amulets mounted on the mirror and some sort of East Indian rap band CD. This one actually just has a tape player, no CD player. I would expect this type of car to come with like a Cool in the Gang tape or something like that. Unfortunately, it didn't come with any tape. Anyways, that one got its passenger side smashed. It was silver, and the replacement door was dark gray. A neighbor asked me one day if I had thought about getting it painted. I said not interested. The gray door adds character. And it was true, and it got me thinking that a lot of what makes modern cars truly unique is really just damage and whatnot. So the insurmountable complexity of the bodywork protocol is due in part to the subject, because you've got your work cut out for you if you're painting something that isn't neat to begin with. Lately, I've started to give new neighborhoods the benefit of the doubt. I would never buy one of those houses where they all look the same myself. They're a complete monoculture now, but you can argue that in 10 to 15 years, the houses will start to get more diverse and interesting. The same can't be said about these new cars. They're not going to shapeshift. You can't take the Oriental look off an Oriental car. You can't even take the Oriental look off a vehicle built in Michigan in recent years. I've been noticing new cars have these light up horizontal lines, LED lights, between the headlights. And in theory, that could be really cool. Maybe some variations look good, but most of what I've been seeing has been stupid and god-awful. And I saw it coming up in the distance and made it for a Pacific Rim export before I got close enough to see the make. And of course, it was one of those Hyundais or whatever. Crazy to think that right now, at this very moment, a grown man somewhere is having a tantrum over a scratch, over his plain gray car built in Guangzhou being scratched like it's gray. That's just primer. Just because he's paying $80,000 for it with 4.99% interest bi-weekly payments. Spending $110,000 doesn't make something inherently beautiful. I just painted this, but it could get scratched today and I wouldn't lose any sleep over it. I'm not gonna get into the matter of insurance right now because I'd be incredibly long-winded talking about that. Maybe another time. Every big work of art will have imperfections, and on a subject that is already more innately beautiful, the imperfections become excusable. You earn the privilege to be informal in some areas. The ladies call it, the leading psychologists are calling it, pretty privilege. I've drawn all kinds of things, and with a subject that is like densely detailed, you make a mistake, the mistakes just get swallowed up by the drawing if it's really detailed, like almost effortlessly. On the other hand, I've got a great big tattoo of a map on my back, and it looks good, but some mistakes were made, and trying to conceal them was a far more difficult thing to do because it's a map, so it calls for more precision. Same thing goes for your plain new cars. And the wide license plates used in most of the world outside North America, even that is enough to ruin the whole thing. Yes, my work was far from perfect, but the long and short of it is I had a gray car, and now I have a sharp-looking teal car. Nothing lasts forever, but look at just how defective a cheap clear coat turned out to be after I applied it a few short months ago. One economic quarter,
So, after being laid off from my job, I thought I'd retain the Protestant work ethic I developed over the summer. So I'll put an extra 2 base coats and clear coat done right this time. I will try to enlist professionals for polishing, so stick around to see how that turns out. I set up the pins for them to knock down. Before starting, I corrected this part of the roof frame with a splash of black paint to cover up the excess glue that was on there. My spray distance for the first coat was 3 or 4 inches. Then on the second, I held it about a foot back.
Yeah. Motherfucker. What's up, gangsta rap?
As you can see on this label, professional use only. So I'm gonna try my best to be professional, you know? Not say or do anything too unprofessional. Keep things ethical, no harassment and what have you. 2K does not mean 2000, it's actually German for 2 component. You gotta give it a good shake and break the seal to mix in a catalyst and continue shaking for another 2 long minutes. This 2K stuff is seriously hazardous. That's why I'm using a half-mask respirator.
This'll make me the most dangerous man in the country.
This also means if you're bald and we're thinking of putting it on your bald dome, that is a bad idea. ChatGPT told me I would need 1,000,000 cans. Seems to me that the only way to rationalize all the resources being dedicated to something so consistently incompetent is to say the main purpose of one's life was reproduction. But it could be said that it's actually the root word, production, and this technology is the son of mankind. The spoiled, good-for-nothing son of mankind, who is spoiled just for the sake of it. I bought 14 cans and only ended up using 8, for a total of 4 coats. The spray distance of 1 foot had me concerned that it was blowing away before making contact. So I sprayed much closer on the 3rd coat, which was an absolutely boneheaded move. Don't do this.
great speaking.
Hi there. I was curious about your rates for paint correction. I painted it with rattle cans.
Okay, is there a clear code on it?
Can I put you on hold for a minute?
Yeah, no problem.
Thank you for your call. We are either on another call or away from the desk.
Yeah, if you can bring it in, then I can better give an estimate because I don't know what you're talking about, how bad the paint is.
I'll pay double, triple
how
what
much
you're asking.
spending will be needed.
See what I can
money's
tell.
just as good as
Sometimes
anybody
you
else.
can't really.
Yeah, I understand that it's a challenge to deal with that.
Because you can burn through it pretty quick.
I'm gonna cut you a check. It'll be fine.
I'm sorry, bud.
Hey, bud, listen up.
All right, Chief. You call me again, I'm gonna call the cops.
Everybody turned down the job, citing that after polishing, it would leave their shop worse than when it entered. I made it clear that I would take full responsibility and not pursue litigation, but it was no use.
Coming up next.
I'm still not done with this. We're gonna put a zebra pelt on the roof. We're gonna put alligator skins on the upholstery. And we're gonna put the finest antlers money can buy on the headlights.
Hi, my name's Stuart Blackwater. I'm a purveyor of exotic animal pelts. I flew here from Jumanji for this job. I own a 9-foot-long elephant rifle. I own a 9-foot-long elephant rifle.
You ready to take some measurements?
Yes, sir. I'll start with the undercarriage.
It's no longer amateur hour. Through their devoted benevolence, some associates provided access to a controlled environment where one could paint for real. Without definitively squandering this opportunity, I was still thinking like a flat broke cheapskate, so the rationale was to lightly scuff what I had. No need for primer. Just grazed a few spots with the orbital sander cause it was unbeknownst to me at this point that I had more than enough base to start from scratch. So ChatGPT failed us again. Next we used a mixture of camp fuel and isopropyl to thoroughly clean the car. And once again, carefully taping the trim.
I'm gonna come.
At this point, I've done enough crab walking in a respirator for 2 lifetimes. I threw the paint gun in the trash when I should have just held on to it. The fumes probably influenced me to do it. The very prominent blue you're looking at didn't really leave the shop with the car, but it kind of did. It held together for the most part. At the very least, it's got a passing resemblance to a fine vintage car. Could be a stunt double. Now, look at how this thing shines and glistens.
This is a certified hood classic.
I can't believe what I'm looking at now. I don't have regrets, as the greatest means of learning is through failure. But take my word for it, spraying with rattle cans is simply not worth doing. Seriously, I learned that the hard way. And that was after countless sources online telling me that it was a waste of my time and a bad idea. But all it took was like one person's Reddit post in a sea of like thousands with good things to say about rattle cans, in a classic case of confirmation bias. After 2 days of curing, it was time to take it out. Just gotta retorque the lug nuts after 100 kilometers. I'm satisfied with how it cured for the most part, except there's blistering everywhere on the back bumper. Thankfully it's on here exclusively, and every other surface is alright. Let me know if you have any idea what caused that. At long last, it's time for wet sanding. There was something of a learning curve at first, which was demoralizing. But all it was I was just sanding too conservatively. At one moment I was ready to throw in the towel. Next thing I knew, I was buying 5,000 grit sandpaper. And then, slowly but surely, managed to do a half-decent paint correction. The result was stunning, but not half-decent enough, I said to myself. So I got my sandpaper back out and kept on going. Any asshole can throw some cheap paint on. The meticulous art of paint correction takes all the patience. Some say he's still out there polishing to this day. Correcting the windshield trim has been long overdue. First I added more contact cement as a sizable gap had emerged behind it. Next I wanted to cover the glue residue with this black silicone sealant. As it turns out, it was foolish of me to expect the nose to be functional. I saw a mark of sorts on it and took it for a hole, but I guess everyone knows you gotta drill your own hole all the way through it. So unfortunately I cannot endorse this product, but I will say that my Sunjo random orbital polisher on the other hand was extremely helpful. I got it for only 20 CAD dollars at Princess Auto. But you must use the correct gauge of extension cord. This thing flew right off as I was buffing next to it. I should have took the time to restore it properly, and I'm somewhat annoyed that I didn't, but it had been a long day, so I just carelessly slathered glue onto it. Matter of fact, I haven't been using my head for this entire project. It's more of a product of manic hard work than it is of care. But I do have a lot to show for it nonetheless, if I do say so myself. Yes, it has got skeletons in the closet, but anyway, here's a final look